The productivity industry is keeping smart people stuck. There is something strange about the productivity industry. Its best customers stay exactly where they are. If you keep optimizing your time and your calendar, but your career has gone flat, this video is for you. I'm not going to tell you about another app, another planner, another morning routine, or another way to optimize your calendar because I'm so tired of all of that. There are endless hacks online around time management, organization techniques, and usually we save them, we get excited for a few days and maybe use them for 1 month and then forget about them. I worked in corporate supply chain management for years, and everyone who has worked in operations, IT, supply chain knows that these functions always demand you to deal with a crazy amount of tasks, lots of emails, requests, meetings. And one of the skills you must develop to survive without burnout is the skills of prioritizing. This is where my obsession with productivity started. I assumed if I become more productive, I can get more done in less time. I will keep my status as a high performer, and by achieving more, hitting my target, I'll be more likely to build up my career and move up. And to some extent, this is true. Doing quality work matters. I used to think if I do a better job, if I do it faster, if I optimize more, if I become more efficient, if I create the best possible solution, then eventually I will become the person chosen for bigger opportunities. Sounds logical and it makes sense, but actually, this is not how career growth works, especially if you want a leadership role. And I wish I knew this earlier. And I say all of this as someone who has coached many on productivity and performance. I used to call myself a performance coach. And I even owned an online store at some point that sold productivity planners. I probably should not do this, but in this video, I want to talk about why obsession with productivity and performance is keeping many professionals, many smart people from doing high impact work and growing in their careers, and what to focus on instead. I work with a lot of engineers and scientists, highly analytical professionals. I see how their logical minds often gives them a merit-based view of the world. And I totally resonate with that because I'm an engineer myself. I come from the same background. And, when you're an analytical person, you see everything as cause and effect. You think if I perform better, naturally I will move further. But the organization or generally business world is usually not purely merit-based. It's not that fair, let's say. It's not about the corporate world. It applies to entrepreneurs too. Just because you have a great product that solves a big problem, you won't succeed. Those who succeed have better marketing and visibility. They are better at securing funds. But if you look around, like most organizations, the people who move further are usually not only like the people doing the highest quality technical work. Very often they are people who communicate well, they create trust, they influence others, they manage relationships, they think strategically, they are visible, everyone knows them. And a lot of technical professionals unconsciously see these sort of skills as less important. They think I should just focus on the work. And I'm not saying leaders are incompetent or bad at what they do. But when you're hired into a role, you actually have two jobs. There is the operational job, the range of tasks you have to fulfill and targets that need to be reached. So the actual job you're hired for, and then your career around the job, or the meta job, let's say. And many high performance oriented, like performance obsessed people become so focused on execution, delivery, optimization, performance tasks, like bringing quality work, but they completely forget about leadership skills, influence, building a strategic relationships, visibility, communication, their professional identity, personal brand, whatever you want to call it, like how other people perceive you. Then when they feel stuck, they assume I need to perform even better, especially when someone does not have a coach or a mentor and they do not receive feedback on their blind spots. They can spend years using the wrong solution or addressing the wrong problem because they have just their own view of the world and see everything from that lens. And when all you have is a hammer, then everything looks like a nail. They see everything from the lens of performance. So they reach for another productivity hack, another time management system, another optimization framework, adding a new app, joining a new course, getting new credentials. And meanwhile, the person who will get their dream leadership role is not in another course. They're at lunch with someone who can give that job to. Being the most reliable person is actually costly. The more reliable you are at delivery, the more work gets routed through you. Problems others cannot solve, and all these orphan projects or tasks with no clear ownership land on your desk because you're the one who will do something about them. And people copy you on everything because they know you will actually answer. Other teams route things through you because the formal channels feel too slow. So you've contacted other colleagues, they didn't move forward. They come to you because you know you're the kind of person who moves things forward. I used to work in operations supply chain, and I remember every time I had to go on holiday, or sick leave even, my team would get so stressed to cover for me for a few days because I was that kind of person. Periods where I could barely take the holidays I was actually entitled to because there was too much happening, too many projects, too many dependencies, too many people relying on me. And every time I got sick or even traveled for work or stepped away briefly, the people around me, the team, became stressed because they were depending on me so much. And I have worked on so many sick days. I just regret that just because I did not want things to fall apart in my absence. I would even avoid going on vacations longer than 2 weeks because I just could not face the sheer pile of emails and requests and things to take care of I would have to face after my absence. I was getting a lot of praise for my unhealthy behavior, and when I left, 2 people were hired to replace me. And I often felt like I was in a prison. It took me years to actually learn that I was the problem. It was not the company. You can become indispensable operationally and invisible strategically at the same time. You become known for getting things done and problem solving, not direction and leadership. This is where most high performers plateau. More work comes in, more responsibility comes in. People trust you more and more, but only with operational tasks and not highly strategic topics. And meanwhile, the opportunity you wished you could get goes to someone who is not firefighting like you, but someone who has enough time and space to think, network, and build relationship with the decision makers. And uh, I've seen it among my colleagues, like the ones who are like the actual high performers. They would call these activities wasting time. Like, I'm too busy to go on a coffee with this person or that person. But actually, there were skills that they were missing out on. And by the way, I have a free guide that helps you create that time and space for growth in a realistic way. It's not a productivity hack kind of guide. I put the link in the description. I actually have it here because doing more and better makes you more useful, not more influential. So in this guide, I have it would be interesting to look at if this is something you feel you need. The difference between someone who is operationally valuable and someone who is trusted as a leader contributing to strategic impact is these are very different skill sets. Some people call these skills soft skills or call them leadership skills. And by the way, there is nothing soft about them. The skills that put you on the stage at $1 million decision-making table, holding your ground under pressure, they take courage, resilience, and thick skin to build. Skills like communication, influence, emotional regulation, nervous system regulation under pressure, conflict management, strategic thinking, building trust with people who don't report to you, building trust with people who are way more senior than you. So these skills, they're not that soft. And I never called myself a leader when I was in my corporate job. I assumed the term leader was reserved for C-level and VP level, like vice president, executives. And I always thought you have to be high up to call yourself a leader, or you might be like, you need to be a politician to call yourself a leader. So I thought those skills were not for me as a project manager, a middle manager, sourcing lead. But the jobs I had demanded leadership skills. So that thinking held me back. Leadership skills are what enable you to handle difficult conversations without making them personal. Hold your ground in disagreement with senior people. Communicate with senior leaders in their language of a strategic impact. Stay calm and composed when conflict or emotion shows up in the room. Build alliances with people in other functions and think 2 or 3 steps ahead while everyone else is reacting to today's problems. So high performers without these skills often get caught up in critical situations. They either avoid the whole thing. They're like, no, this is not for me. Find someone else to manage this. They lose opportunities, or they micromanage. They take full control and knowing everyone around them, because the only way they know they can handle this situation is by controlling everything, which is also not helpful. Operationally strong people, or like the analytical minded type I'm talking about, are usually focused on short-term execution, doing excellent work, solving problems, delivering quality on time. And organizations need these people, need these personalities. Think about chess. The pawns are the ones doing the work. They move fast. They take the hits. And most never make it to the end of the game. The king and the queen barely move at all, but the whole game is built around them. And this is where productivity advice stops helping, because productivity is designed to help you perform tasks or manage tasks better. It helps you to be a good pawn. Leadership is not about task. It's a way of thinking, and it is relational. It is about who you are next to other humans. So it's not about who you are in your own room in isolation. I'm sitting here. I could feel very confident. I could have the best growth mindset and all of that. But at the end, what matters is who I am next to other people. So which do you want to be? The queen or one of the pawns? Stop asking how to optimize your time. Start asking why you are operating like this in first place. Because sometimes being busy is not the problem. Sometimes being busy is hiding the problem. It's the symptom of the problem. Sometimes being constantly needed creates emotional safety. So we create that situation just to feel safe, because when we are needed, we feel safe. Sometimes reliability becomes part of our identity. And sometimes underneath all of it, it's fear of disappointing people, fear of being judged. When you're performing very well, you're doing an excellent job, you get a lot of praise. So people become high performers out of insecurity. That's not very healthy. And this is actually well documented. Ron Daniels, the former managing director of McKinsey, was once quoted in Fortune magazine saying they hire people who are first very smart, second insecure, and thus driven by their insecurity, and third competitive. Elite firms have openly recruited for this profile for decades, because in the short term, insecure overachievers deliver exceptional performance, probably not from a healthy place. It has a cost. It's not a cost you can fix with another productivity strategy. This is where sustainable career transformation happens. It requires an identity shift. So if you really want to change your career, it's not through doing a better job, it's through creating the identity shifts. And that takes self-awareness, behavioral changes, emotional regulation, and actual leadership development, developing certain skills. And most of the behaviors keeping high performance operationally valuable, indispensable, but strategically invisible, so they could stay only at that performance level, look like strengths from the outside, and that is what makes them so hard to see. I have a free audio guide called 7 Habits That Look Like Strengths But Block Your Path to Leadership Roles. I put the link in the description, and this is actually, I put it on the podcast, because then you could download it, listen it on the way, and you don't need to watch it on YouTube or anywhere else. So what you actually want is a career that keeps moving. If you want respect from people you admire, and you want work that means something to you, you want purposeful work, you want to be trusted with the kind of work only you can do, then more productivity hacks are not the move anymore. You still need to do quality work, especially in technical, scientific, engineering, or medical environments. I'm not telling you to do a worse job. That is not my message, please. My message for you is to stop believing that leadership growth comes from becoming infinitely efficient at tasks. Leadership comes from communication, strategic thinking, influence, emotional regulation, relationships, conflict management, negotiation skills, and how people actually experience you in the room. And it comes from who knows you, who trusts you, who advocates for you, and how much influence you carry regardless of your title. And most importantly, you can only develop all of these skills if you make the mindset and identity shifts that enable you to build capacity and learn these skills. You don't need to be perfect at all of these, but you need to find your own way of making those skills yours. So if this topic resonates, look inward first and ask yourself, where am I always busy? What am I actually trying to achieve here? What do I ultimately want to be? And where do I want to serve and contribute to the society? And if we want to go deeper on this, I run workshops on influence and power for mid-level managers and senior individual contributors. Is not one of those. This topic is usually, there is a lot of content around this topic for C-level or very high-level leaders, but I have made it especially useful and practical for mid-level managers, project managers, product managers. So check the links in the description and you will find a link to the next workshop. And of course, if you prefer to have a conversation with me and start working now on the topic in a customized, tailor-made program made for you, you don't want to wait for a workshop, then send me an application. I put the link in the description and let's get on a call and see how we can work together on one-on-one basis to address your specific problem. Thanks for listening and see you soon.